This could be. Yeah. So you can mute yourself now, Abraham. Okay. So I think we can get started, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So last week I said, well, we'll come back to what I was about to read to you in the middle. Last week I gave you these pieces of paper just to let you know what, let them see, give them out for a minute, just so you see those 11 things that are the common denominators with our subject, right? The main ones that right now that I'd like to focus on, besides Eliyahu, which we talked about at length, correct? We know how the commonality is blatant with Moshe. It's blatant with Moshe. So the connection goes from 75. How does the connection go? The connection goes from how do you end up with 75 with Moshe and Eliyahu? Because what's 75? Do you remember what the common denominator is? How it works?
What's the common denominator? The more it's going to be when
and the course is right, and there's going to be a you're going to have to et cetera. So right, so so between Eliyahu and Moshe on Har Sinai is explicit, right? The connection between the two. And we said that that's the subject matter that we're in with Kiakah Moed. I'm not going, the resolution is not going to come on your time frame, but rather on my time frame. That's Shalishim and Revi'im and so on and so forth. Which is, hey, how you doing? Which is the Hidush, right? That Moshe Rabbeinu gets. That's when he prays Ki'am Kishe'orif. Right. Now, that so Moshe and Eliyahu are there, but I also want to talk about Mizmor 25 and its connection. Now, in volume 1, I spent extensive amount of time explaining how 25 and Exodus 32, 25 has every word of the 25th Mizmor. You all know the 25th Mizmor by heart because you say it for Nefilat Apayim on Tahanun days, right? You can just look at it for 2 seconds to remind yourself of it. And then we've talked about this, even in the class we talked about it. But this is an acrostic. It's the second of the 8 acrostics, the second of the 4 in book 1. And or Hotecha Lamedeni, of course, there's nothing wrong. We've said this before. We said this a few weeks back, right? Yeah. That it paraphrases, right, Hodieni Adonai Derachecha by saying Derachecha Adonai Hodieni or Hotecha Lamedeni. And then we said that the idea or Hotecha Derachecha Adonai Hodieni later on in the Mizmor, he will say, sword Adonai Le'av ubrito lo diam. The sword of Hashem is for those who fear him, and his berit is is made known to them, and so on and so forth. So I want to sort of start off with talking about 25 for a few minutes. You know what? You can give these out also. These are all in volume 1, but they're good to know, good to see it, good to be aware of it, because the structure of 25 is Very, very outstanding. Maybe I could put it up on the screen. Just 1 second, because I was looking at it. Yeah, there's 25. Good evening. Sure, Fadal. So you see that 25 is there's a easy way to see the structure. Here's another one. Do this to the same. The structure of 25 is very, very easy to see because all you have to do is take no one ever noticed it, of course. All you have to do is take off the letters that are missing, the vav and the kof. That's what you see on this chart over here. The black letters are before the omitted vav, and the black letters on the bottom are subsequent to the missing kof, right? And what turns out is that the words in red, that red box that I have around, you see the word berit, two large occurrences of it. So I boxed off the words in between berit, the two berits. And if you look to the left, you'll see it says there are 26 words within the covenant, right? In other words, you have B'ditor, 26 words, and then you have Ub'ditor. And this is just to remind you, you all probably read all of this and know it by heart by now, but just a little humor. Just to remind you what's in volume 1, because it's a long commentary. You'll notice on the left over there, it says that the count of the words around the after, before and after the missing letter is 130. You see that? It's in the on the bottom there, it says 130. So there are 130 words that with the, what is it, 37 before, right? Is that what it is? I'm looking at it now to remember. Let me see. 1437, and then 44, right? Is that right, Morris? Yeah, I think it's right. Yeah. So and then the surrounding the missing letters are 70 words. There it is. Right.
Yeah.
And surrounding Berit is 130. Okay, that's what it is.
Oh,
Look on the left. To read the sideways thing, and it'll say it, right? Surrounding the missing letters, 5 to 38. Okay, there are 70 words around the missing letters. Right. So you see that it's very, very, very structured, and you don't have any mistakes, Morris. You see it? It's very, very clear. Once you see the surrounding letters around the missing letters, the words are 70. Oh, 70. It's not an accident. And then you look around the surrounding the Berit, you see 130 words. You go, okay, how many times have we shown an example of 70 or 7 and 13 and so on and so forth? Dozens and dozens of times, if not more than that.
So 89 plus 70 is 159, so it's 130.
There's 159 words altogether,
Right,
correct?
130 plus 26 plus the B'ditor, and the superscription.
Right. Yeah, by the way, the middle word, I think, is Shemcha, L'ma'an Shemcha, your name. This is all about the focal point. I was L'ma'an Shemcha, right? Which of course takes you back to Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer, right? Where he asks for forgiveness because they're going to say, you took them out, right? Your name, and so on and so forth. If you read the commentary in volume 1, you can't. I show how almost every word in here is chapter 32. It's overwhelming. It's not a maybe. It's duplicating it in Tehillim form. Wait, let him finish. Okay, so when I showed you the example of Hadricheni, etc., or the right, the Dalid letter and the Hair letter, Derachecha and Hadricheni and Hodieni. Of course, that's going to take you back to Moshe's famous questions that he asks Hashem in the process of trying to get Hashem to forgive Israel after the Egil, right? But it's more. It's more, and if you look, you'll see it. It's all over the place. What's important that I want to tonight just bring to your attention as it relates to us is this. The word Berit does not come up in Tehillim until the 25th Mizmor. It only occurs, if I'm not mistaken, in 21 of the 150 Mizmorim, the word Berit, and the split of the 8 and 13 is like outstanding. It's amazing. You see the word Berit, you track it, its structure. Can't do it tonight, but it's absolutely amazing. Amazing what it does.
What do you mean by structure?
Where it occurs, 21 times means 8 times, 13 times, the 8th one, the 13th, where it occurs. When you look at it, you go, oh my God. And then when you see the thing, and then it's everything ties in backwards, forwards, the center points, all of the structural aspects in Tehillim of where the word Berit is used is very, very outstanding.
So this Berit is the first time it occurs in Tehillim.
So that's the thing I wanted. This is the first time. Now it's 24 Mizmorim. If you go up to a person, you ask him, did the word Berit occur? Of course the word Berit occurred. No, it never occurred once, not till here. And when it does occur, it occurs 2 times, right? And what is the subject matter? The subject matter is to who? To lenotzre berito vedotav. That's where it's right. Of course, the word chesed emet. Right. That's one of all the words take you back there, right? Then the Samach letter Sod Adonai l're'av uberito lo diam. Those words, the sword of Hashem is to those who fear him, and his berit to be made known to them. Of course, that word l'hodiam is taking you back, as we've said before, to the Dalit derachecha Adonai hodieni, right? Or hotecha lamedeni. So you're getting an answer to that in the statement later on. By the way, there's exactly 80 words between the hodienis, right? Right, the covenant, right? Another indicator on top of this. Multiple simultaneous overlapping patterns, right? So the other thing I want you to see is this dalit, right? What do you I want to try and simplify this now tonight. When you think of Moshe Rabbeinu's question at Sinai, you think of the ultimate question of the theodicy, right? I want to know your ways. That's what you think of. That's what people think of. That's what commentators will say. What's going on over here is this is the big question. This is the one. I want to know how did any that kevodecha. You want to see glory and so on and so forth. And he gets the answer, and he does get an answer. He tells them what to do. And that's the connections that we had with Eliyahu, with Nikrat Hatzur, and the cave, and the way he answers him. You can only see me in the similarities we've spoken about. I'm not repeating it now, but the important thing to know about this, what we're calling the swath of the connections to our 75. And this idea that we're talking about, that like Yirmiyah gets the answer, it's going to be 70 years, which we said means the 4th generation. It's another way of saying the 4th generation. Middle of the 4th generation, at that time, salvation will come. In this Mizmor, you are missing, which wasn't known, which we know, so therefore it benefits us. What did we write? We wrote that the Vav and the Kof are missing because it stands for the word hope, Kaveh. And the way we showed that was that every time you look, if you look at the hair letter, you see the hair. You see the word kiviti? I hope in you. right after Otcha Kiviti Kol Hayom, the Kof and the Vav, then you have a Vav omitted. Everybody with me still? I just want to remind, this is true. You have the word Kiviti, Kof and Vav, right? Kiviti, and then you're missing a Vav. Now go down to the omitted Kof, right? What comes right before that? Sarot le'abir hibu. What's the next word? Memesukotai hotzieni. Of course, the word memesukotai is a vav and a kof and a vav, right? Right? So in this word, if you want to know where the letters are omitted, right before you have a missing vav, you have the word kiviti, and right before the missing kof, you have mimesukotai. What's the last word of the mizmor? Tom vayosher yitziruni ki kivitika, right? You can't get better than that. If you'd like to know more structural aspects of 25, if you count up how many letters, how many kofs, and how many vavs, there are 70 of them. And if you count up how many letters there are, everything in this is water. And again, I want to do this to save time. It's not the objective tonight to learn the exact details, but to know this. You'll have to take my word for it. Nobody ever knew this for thousands of years. They all attributed these missing letters to transmission, right? They said it's a mistake. There's no mistake. Just like we showed in 9 and 10, the 7 letters come whenever evil and the disruption of order. Every time the word evil comes up, you're missing a letter, and that's the 7 letters, so on and so forth. Over here, what's missing is the vav and the kof. In 9 and 10, the letter that brought salvation was the vav. If you remember, in the 9th mizmor, it's missing, right? The vav comes up, there's missing letters. There's missing dalet, right? And then the letter vav has 4 times, and it's all about, the first word is Yud Kei Vav Kei, the middle word is God, and the last word is God. God, when God comes into the scene, everything gets reset, and the mizmor gets reset, and all the numbers get reset, so to speak, so on and so forth. What happens over here is the opposite. There is no resetting. It does not get reset. God doesn't show up in the vav mizmor. On the contrary, it's missing, and the kof is missing, and that is hope is missing. It means when you say you have no hope, even though, of course, it says, like we said, he has hope in God, but the present situation is one of despair. It's hopeless. Exactly. It's a hopeless situation in the current state of affairs, right? So I want to explain, why did the word berit occur in 25 the first time and twice? And what was the subject matter? Well, the subject matter was the berit. And talking about the berit in exactly the most important element and aspect of what is the covenant with God. The question is, Derachecha Adonai hodieni or hotecha lamedeni? Hadricheni ba'amitecha ve'lamedeni ki ata lo yeshi otcha kiviti kol hayom. Yeah? Clearly, the question in here and the question by Moshe are being cross-referenced, right? Paraphrased, cross-referenced. You're being taken to that question of Moshe, and you're being given it in the 25th Mizmor, where it's a hopeless situation, where despair is permeating everything. And the Mizmor,
After the egg.
well, that's after the Egel over here. And over here, right, over here, this is representing a state of affairs where Israel is in Galut. There's nothing left.
About to be destroyed.
Or destroyed, or it is destroyed, or it is destroyed. it's going to be destroyed in the 79th Mizmor. He's going to speak about it, right? But of course, Tehillim is talking to you subsequent to the destruction all the time. So now, why talk about the Berit? Listen carefully. Why do you talk about the Berit in a Mizmor that talks about despair, hopeless situation, right? And as the answer to make your ways known to me. The question of theodicy.
Answer to the question of theodicy. That's what you're asking.
That's correct. Why does it bring up the theodicy in spades? That's hopelessness. That's despair. Show me your ways. I want to understand, right? And then the answer, and the second biddy is sword Adonai Li'av. The sword of God is to those who fear him, ubritor, and his biddy to be made known to them. What does that mean? Why does he talk about it as something that is unknown? It's a secret. It's not there for the public to know. You know who knows it? The people who fear God know it. Is there for them. They get that is made known to them. The covenant is made known.
They accept it.
So what are they accepting? So the story goes like this. Just like we said that 75, the answer to 75 is or to Moshe Rabbeinu, there's going to be punishment, but it's going to be limited, and in the fourth generation, it will this, or to Abraham in the Berit Ben Betarim, it's going to be limited, right? It's always emphasizing this idea of on the fourth generation, you will have freedom, you will get back. That means that there will be punishment, and it will be severe, and it will be a pretty long time. When I say pretty long, that's correct. A person who's born into it, a person who's born in it, for a person who's born in 1920, whatever, or 1910, he's going to see very terrible things go on for a very long time before that break comes, right? And but the repair from that's a long job. It's a long time. 6 million people get killed in this process. It's a very, very devastating process. The worst in history. So in despair, in the Mizmor where hope is missing, there is hope. Where is the hope? The hope is in the covenant. And the covenant is that in spite of the fact that the nation has sinned, right? Besides the fact that the situation is so bad, there's going to be an eventual redemption, which is exactly what 675 says. The answer to 74 and the destruction, oh, in that case, not Jerusalem, that's 79, 74, it's the temple. 74 asks, how could you do such a thing, right? How could you sit by and watch this happen? And the answer is at the time that I take, in other words, the course we said, things will be better. So 25 represents it in every way, shape, form, and manner, whether it be the covenant coming up twice, the definition of the covenant, the words that it's a sword for those who fear him, right? Yes, go ahead.
Between the Vav and the Kof, the name Yud K Vav K
Yeah.
happens how many times?
I have no idea. I never looked.
If you had to guess.
26.
Is it really?
Count them.
Really?
One in Pasuk Zayin. One
Yes.
in Pasuk Chet.
Yes.
One in Pasuk Tet. One in
Yes.
Pasuk Chaf. One in Pasuk Lamed. One in Pasuk Mem.
Oh.
One in Pasuk Samech. And then one in Pasuk Ayin.
Right.
One,
Wow,
two,
Sammy,
three.
look it up.
Very good. I should have put that in the book. Yeah. Haram.
No, the iron is after the meeting. The iron-
No, it's all between Vav and Kof.
No, it's between the Vav and the Kof. Vav and the Kof. Yeah. Right.
Missed that.
Very good. Very, very good. Excellent.
Right.
Yeah,
We keep mentioning 75 Moed. Hashem is going to determine the time,
yeah,
but then we get a concrete time of fourth generation.
yes.
So it seems to be a conflict.
Not a conflict. It's at the time that I choose.
Yeah, but then
That
we
the
keep-
God's
but you
choose.
keep getting guarantees of fourth generations over. That seems to be a theme. Is the fourth generation?
It is.
So it seems to be part of the program, not necessarily God's just decided arbitrarily or whatever reason to choose that time.
But when he says, when I take the course from you, we showed last week that in Yirmiyah chapter, we showed that 25 is the reflection of this. And in 25, it's the only time the whole Jewish nation,
Yeah.
with all of Torah Nevi'im Keduvim, says, oh, 70 years.
Right.
In 70 years, it's going to
So
happen.
is that the answer to Moed?
Yes, that's why it's the 70th letter and it's the 70th word backwards and it's all 70 over there. We put it on we showed you in
But
these
is that
these
it?
sheets. Yeah.
But is that answer the answer, or is that just happens to be the time God chose?
That is the answer. Is the time that God chose is that it's going to be 4 generations. That's what he says in the
But when
technical.
he's talking to the Nevi'im and he's telling them, I'll decide when. Not-
Right.
but-
Because when you're no. You're missing Eliyahu now. It's the best way to answer your question. What does Eliyahu say? I want it right now. He tells him, I will only work with Kol Dim Adakah. Right? What does he answer him back, Eliyahu? He's there the next morning. And the next morning he says, what are you doing here? He says the same words he said on day one. What does God tell him? The same words he told him on day one, also back in response. You know the answer. Well, if Eliyahu is told the answer, and then the next day he's told the answer again, what does it mean?
Not listening.
He don't
That's the answer.
no, he don't like it. Not he listen. He's in communication with God in this. Exactly. That's a better way to see it. And God tells him, well, tough, right? He tells him, go and go back to work. Go back to work and go, which he does.
But they're getting an answer of 70 years.
He doesn't like it.
One gets to 70, Moshe gets to 70.
Right.
They get to 70 years. It's not the Moed of 75 that's just leave me alone, I'll tell you when. Like he tells Yov, you weren't there when I created the world. I'll make these decisions.
Mhm.
He seems to be giving them
Indefinite.
no, he's giving him a concrete answer. He's giving him a solid thing.
He is giving them a concrete answer.
In 75, it's more random.
I'm saying.
It's not random, it's when I choose.
Right.
I told you
Not
that
random.
choice is saying at the time I choose. That's not going to be for another 70 years.
No, but it's
That's what it is in 25 when he tells Yirmiyah.
but 75 seems to be giving hope that okay, there is a future. You're not going to see it, but there is a future.
That's correct.
As opposed to I'll decide when because there's a lot of things that I have to decide before I make a date.
I'm not
Fine.
following the difference between the two.
Moed seems to be God's going to decide when.
I told you we should take Ki Ekach Moed last week. When I take, what do you mean when I take the Moed? When I take the course at the specified time that I said, which is in 70 years, that's when it'll happen. Not when I choose. Those are the wrong words we said last week. So you should not read that at the time of my choosing whenever I feel like doing it. Ki Ekach Moed means when I take the course back, right? God has the course. He gave Yirmiyah the course. He told him, go get all the nations to drink from it in Babel and Dan. He says, in 70 years, it'll be back. Ki Ekach, when I take that course, right, at the specified time, it will end.
So he's giving them an answer.
He is.
As opposed to you don't ask the question.
He never told Eliyahu, don't ask the question.
No, but
He
he
told
told somebody else.
Eliyahu the answer.
So you don't ask the question.
No, he never said that. He said he's the only guy who knows what he's talking about. Their answers are all
When those
insufficient.
weren't there when I created the world.
He's telling because he's very listen, you're very unhappy with it. This situation, you're pushing it. It's good you're pushing it. I'll tell you what you're doing now. The fact that there's an answer doesn't mean that everything's okay. So what? Eliyahu goes, so what? There's a prophet. He says, I don't like the answer. So you're going like this. Well, I gave an answer. Everything is perfect now. God gave you the answer. Eliyahu says, I don't buy it. He's not you. He's a prophet, right? And he goes like this. I don't go for this. So God tells him, what are you doing? You know, Malachat Po Eliyahu means, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? In other words, God knows he's coming to have a conversation with him about, what are you doing here? Malachat Po. So he tells him what he's doing here. So he tells him, what, by the way, open up to Kings, Kings 1, chapter 19, right? Right? That's it, 19. Everybody open up for a minute. To better answer solely, I want to point something out to you. The duplicates between Yirmiyah, everybody online, if you're with us, we're on Melachim Aleph, chapter 19. In 19, which we've read a lot of times, so I don't want to read it in detail. I want to go to this. I want to go to verse 9. ויבוא שם אל המערה, ויעלן שם, and he slept, והנה דבר אדוני אליו. We're in verse 10 now. ויאמר לו, מלאכת פה אליהו, what are you doing over here, Eliyahu? Again, when you say Malachat Po Eliyahu, Eli, what does it mean you say, what are you doing here?
You're not supposed to be.
You're not supposed to be here. Well, what are you doing here? You want to have I'm not this. You serious? You want to have this discussion now? What are you doing here? He tells him, Kanokineti ladonai. I was jealous for God, right? And listen, what? Ki azru beritcha b'nei Yisrael. They left the berit. Et mizbechotecha harasu et b'echa haragu harigu b'harev. They slaughtered all your prophets. I'm the only one left. And I'm the only guy left. And they come to kill me. Everybody's dead except for me. And now they're coming to get me. So he tells him, stand on the mountain before God. It's all the duplicate of Moshe, right? Making you think of the cross references to Moshe in the report, second report. A great wind. You could translate it, Mars. A great wind
Great
is
and mighty wind.
right. That could smash mountains. Shaber Saraim.
Shattering rock.
Lefnei Adonai, before God. Lo beruach Adonai.
Not in the wind.
He's not in the wind. The Hararuach Rash.
To the wind and earthquake.
Lo berash Adonai. Rash means noise, really. Rash, noise, earthquake, tumult, right? The Hararash.
After the earthquake,
Ish.
fire.
Lo be'esh Adonai.
But the Lord was not.
The Harash.
After the fire,
After the fire, after the inferno, all you hear is called demama daka, a sound that is infinitesimal sound that is so small that you can't barely hear it. It's a small voice, basically saying it's almost imperceptible after these blasting things. Hold your place and turn back now to the actual incident at Carmel, which takes place at chapter 18. And let's look at, I'll read it fast. He tells the Nevi'eh Baal and all these people, right? Verse 23, etc., etc. And in verse 24, Ukratem b'shem Elohechem, you call out your God, v'ani ikra b'shem Yudke Vavke. He tells them, right? This is the famous scene. Everybody with me here? Everybody remembers this. V'yah Elohim asher yaneh ba'esh. Listen carefully now, Sammy, because you got the 8 occurrences. That's good. V'yah Elohim asher yaneh ba'esh, and the God that will answer with fire, hu Elohim. He is the God. They say, okay, we're in. ויאמר אליהו לנביאי הבעל, בחרו לכם apart, and had the majority. And you call out your God, the Eshlo Tasimon, don't put a fire. ויקחו את הפר אשר נתן להם ויעשו ויקראו בשם הבעל מהבוקר ועד הצהריים. They called from morning till night, until late in the day, לאמור הבעל עננו ואין, listen carefully, אין קול ואין עונה. There's now no sound. Do you remember one of the things were sound? The three things that Eliyahu was told, there's the sound, wind, and fire. Remember those three: sound, wind, and fire. The fire was the first thing. Now there's no sound. And he taunts them and he tells them, call Gadol, call out loud, right? Maybe he's sleeping. Wake him up, right? And now you hear 450 Nevi'eh Baal screaming out. Is there a lot of noise now? A lot of noise. 450 people yelling at the top of their lungs. They cut themselves like these people do, right? And with blood spilling. Nothing. The next thing, he tells him, he puts him there, and he says, and so on and so on. In 21.
Back to Moshe.
It's of course going back to Moshe in chapter 24 of Shemot. And he tells them, fill 40 jugs, right? And they did it a second time, and he tells them do it a third time, and they do it a third time. And the waters go all around the altar, and even the
trench.
The trench, there was a trench, right? It fills up with water. By the way, over here it's called Yaakov, it's called Yisrael. Moshe is the only one who uses that term. Now it will be known, etc., etc. And Betipol Esh Adonai, listen carefully. Over here it says, and a fire fell. Not it went out like it does by like the idea it says, and a fire in verse 38, Vatipol Ish Adonai, and the fire of God fell, and it consumed the Olah, the Etzim, the Abanim, the Afad, and the Mayim that's in the Te'alah. The water, everything gets, the water is like what? Is like gasoline, right? The water is on fire and gets completely consumed. Yeah? Vayar, Kol Anami, blew up in him. Now, and then they take them and they kill them. Now, there's a conflagration over there, fire, correct? There's a conflagration. The whole thing is burning. Tons of liquid that he put in, right? Again and again. Think about what God told him. What are the three examples? I'm not in the wind, and I'm not in the sound, right? And I'm not in the noise, I'm not in the sound, and I'm not the last thing, and I'm not in the fire. What do you mean I'm not in the fire? 1 second ago, you just now read about who's in the fire. It's more than reluctant. It doesn't say it came out from God. It says it fell. It fell, right? The fire of God fell. The fire of God fell. Now, it's going out of its way not to use the way you're used to it, that the fire went out from God and got them. It says a fire. And then when God tells them the three examples, it's just it's what he just did. And the fire was the conflagration. And he says, and after the fire, you know what you hear? You don't see me. So what did he tell him about what he did?
Don't do it again. It's not how it works.
Not that.
I don't work that way. You work that way. I don't work that way.
This was the Horah Sha'at.
What do you mean? That was the greatest thing that ever happened with Eliyahu and Kadmil.
I don't need to miss it.
What?
It's missing. I shouldn't have-
But don't you, when you think of the Kadmil story, say, wow, that was great what Eliyahu did.
I shouldn't have-
Doesn't it sound like God is telling him?
Yeah.
Not in my book, it isn't. What? What? Because he used the very things that he did in the thing. And he last one he said was the fire, and the fire was there. And in the end
that
of the
low, that level, that we were missing, that we didn't teach the people properly. we need to-
No.
we need to-
You want results on the spot. And the things, no. The first thing is now.
Right.
I don't work that way. When I work, you don't even know I did anything. It's called the Madcast, another way of saying my actions are imperceptible. You can't see them. Exactly. You see, you can only see me retrospectively. You can't see Panay and live. You can't see it. So that's what he did. Now, what is Eliyahu telling Hashem, Mars? What is he telling him the next day after he told him, you did those three things, I'm not into those three things? What is he telling him the next day? What is he telling God? Yeah.
That's I don't like that.
I did the right thing. That's amazing. I did the right thing.
I don't.
Kenokineti, I did the thing, and I did the right thing. Yeah. Huh. Well, when he's there the next guy podcast, now what are you doing here?
It's almost like he's saying, I'm doing more than you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's why.
And it's the right thing what I did.
That's why he gets fired.
Yeah. So
Fired.
When did he run away from what's her name? When did you run?
now right here, now he's in, what do you mean? He's in flight. How is he in Horeb? He crossed Horeb is south in the southern kingdom. He's in the northern kingdom. He crosses all the way down. He goes to Horeb. He's in flight. But the amazing thing is that he tells God, after God tells him
You're wrong.
the fire thing, he actually, it looked so successful, the fire thing. That's not me. So Eliyahu goes, he says, that's not you. I just did everything perfect.
And nothing worked, and you still, your life is still in danger, and the Baal's still in charge, and nothing came out of it.
And I'm not, and you're not going to tell me, ki ekach moed ani misharim ishpot.
It's not happening now, it's gonna take time.
It's going to happen on my time frame, which is, I'm working on it, but I'm working on my time frame, which is not now, in the future, because he tells him go and anoint all the leader of Aram, the leader of Israel, and Elisha the prophet, right? Right, Elisha ben which is Ben Yehoshaphat, right? So go hire him. So that, and he is going to be the one who will do X things, and it's going to happen in 3 and 4 generations from now. So therefore, in that conversation, in his answer, God tells him explicitly the things that he did with the fire. So before we leave it, I want to ask you a question. Now, I know we're online. Let's see who's listening. It's only AB. Okay, it's safe. Listen to how I'm going to ask the question. Listen to how I'm going to ask the question, and this is just listen. Clearly, after I explained this to you just now, do I have the room's agreement that Hashem's answer was exactly the things that he did, and he used the examples of what he did? You agree with me?
Yes.
Right? And he ends off on the fire on purpose because there was
Right.
conflict. You agree with me? You agree that he used those 3 things and tells him, I don't work like that?
Yes.
I work with, you agree? So then what happened in the scene that Eliyahu is describing? I'll ask the question better.
What happened to come out?
Yeah. When you read the story, go to any guy and read them the story, and they say miraculous miracles happened, right?
And all of his experiences seem miraculous.
They all seem-
Yeah.
Right.
It's all miraculous.
Matt,
He does CPR, but the people thinks he brought the kid back to life. But all he did was, it's pretty amazing that he knew about CPR and he taught Elisha CPR, and Elisha did it also, and it's amazing. Don't get me wrong, amazing. He was brilliant, right? Was he not brilliant, Eliyahu? Nothing less than brilliant, and knew the science of his times. He was like the way you think that Rambam is a doctor. He knew. He knew the weather. He knew about weather. He knew about, because he tells him, you'll see now, we're going to get rain, right? He's very bright. In his time, you got to call it a prodigy of the first order. But I'm asking you, Joey, who just said to me, but it looks like a miracle.
All his experiences.
When he says it's going to rain, is it a miracle? Maybe it is a miracle. No, I'm not saying no. But when he's calling it, you know what he says? Go look, see far out. Do you see a cloud very far away? Wait, you'll see. Da 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 da. So is he using his wits when these things happen? Is everybody still listening to me?
You got it, you got it.
He's using his wits. So what happened in Carmel? What was that conflagration when he tells them, put the water, then do it again, then do it again?
You just said it.
No.
It was oil.
Setting up. Setting up.
Come on, really?
What?
Well,
Oil.
what can you
Lightning.
pour?
One
oil-
spark.
Lightning.
Really?
No.
Oh, gasoline, you said.
Yeah, they-
Right.
You gotta cut.
What?
What?
What do you know that looks like water?
Not
Back
bad.
The fire of God fell.
Alcohol.
It's right. He, does the jug have any oil in it? Now that's a very dangerous statement that I just made. And I recognize that it's a dangerous statement, but listen to me. If in fact Eliyahu says, listen, I'm gonna make a conflagration here because the people need it. He's not a con man. You know what he's saying? I can't let, these are animals. I want to use a present day example for a minute. The Palestinians, I saw that girl, by the way, by Daniel's house. Did you all see that video of her, the
Sapir
hostage?
Cohen.
Sapir Cohen. Daniel, my nephew sent to me, she spoke, and it's amazing to listen to her story of 55 days and, amazing. In any event, if you say, I have to do something to get rid of these people, I would tell you 100%, do whatever you have to do. Do whatever you have to do. They're animals, they're behemoth, do whatever you have to do. If Eliyahu sees everybody dead, I want to defend him for a minute, if we're right. Say we're right. He says, they're all dead. They're coming to get me. I gotta do something. If I don't do something, now we're gonna lose everything. We're gonna have nothing left. We're gonna lose. There's nobody left in the country. I'm the next one to go. So he makes a conflagration, and they think whatever they think, right?
It does say Mayim, but it's presenting it
Let's
the
cut.
way.
It
that the
says
people-
that's what the people see. They see water.
That's what they say.
So if this is true, if it's true, I said if it would be true, then I want to defend for a minute to say all miracles that we know as miracles that people do, for sure, we never think of them as real miracles. None of them ever had the power to do this. There was no such thing ever in history. It didn't exist. Miracles, as you think, are the same, the miracle that a Navi would write about 1948 war, when he'd write about it, for sure, it would sound like, which it was, an open miracle like the sea splitting. And anybody who looks back on it says, you gotta be an idiot to not say it was a miracle. It was an open miracle. Was it the miracle of this? It was, because you can't win against 100 million guys.
That's how.
That's correct. And it was that. In reality, it was that. Can you come out of World War II, 1945, tell a guy in 3 years, this is gonna happen, you're gonna be the most powerful nation? I told you this before, you're mentally ill. So it's miraculous, it's called a miracle. So now, if all the time you see these stories, like the child who's being brought back, and of course he didn't bring the child. Nobody's bringing anybody back from the dead. Of course, that's not what he is. And of course, you'll look at it back now and you'll say he knew CPR, right? Or making the water sweet, right? Because he writes that until today, those waters are still converted. That they were bad waters you couldn't drink. But after he did a chemical change in the water, it stayed forever after that. The chemical change, whatever he threw into the water, he knew how to purify the water, a large body of water, and it works. And it works. And the Navi writes, till today, those words are still being used. We use them. So it means they were very bright and they knew how to do these things. And certain legends are referred to retroactively. You look back, you go, well, he was a miracle maker, he was a miracle man. But was he a miracle man like do we think he made the plate disappear? Nobody makes plates disappear. Only magicians.
One,
Mhm.
we see that Moshe does a similar thing, making bitter water sweet.
Mhm.
So I'm just saying, when we're talking about.
Moshe's life and Elisha's life track.
Yeah,
Eliyahu part, Elisha completely.
well, because I wanted to just ask one more question about this whole conversation we're having about Esh. Moshe first meets God in Esh,
That's right.
in the Sinai.
It
Yeah.
doesn't burn.
But not only does it not burn,
Right. It doesn't burn. He sees
his
a
answer,
fire and the tree doesn't get consumed.
the answer he gives Moshe is future oriented.
That's correct. You know how you'll know? You remember this. When will you know? When you're serving God in this man, you'll know it worked. It's the greatest answer in the world. You know how you'll know? You'll know when you get there. You'll know when you win. You know when you won? When you won.
So that back to
Great answer.
Eliyahu,
Great answer.
but back to Eliyahu. he's
Yes.
Missing those components of the Esh being in the Sinai and not thinking as future oriented as he needs to.
So listen carefully now. Morris is going to tell you something because you brought up something very sharp. When you see the first instance of Moshe's the first prophetic experience that Moshe Rabbeinu has is about fire, but it doesn't get consumed. All of these are about to consume. Everything is getting consumed, right? You go, right? Ish uchilet b'rosh ha'ar. They see a consuming fire. How is she? Great. A consuming fire. That's my mother. A consuming fire, and she's thank God doing well. A consuming fire at the top of the mountain. Morris, why is his first experience about a thing that says ve'enenu ukal, and it doesn't get consumed?
We looked up all the instances of the Esh,
Yes.
Devarim, often. God is, we all know, Esh Ochla. Right? They see God at the top of Har Sinai, and they see,
Couple of pieces become very dry.
right?
That's
But now
couple
when
of
they see
pieces.
that, they're in the same spot as Moshe was on his opening.
And it wasn't Eshochel.
It was not. That's
Right.
the one instance where you have this Esh showing up, Enenu Ukal.
Right.
What does that mean?
Wait.
You say.
Eliyahu, I'm not in the fire.
1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute.
Okay, I think you should deliver this one.
No, go ahead.
Good.
Answer the question, Morris. Come on.
Come on,
So-
Mark, you could do it.
Moshe is seeing something that's anomalous to what the understanding is of God and the way that he works. Everybody understands that when you get involved with God and you do something wrong, it's over. It's finished, right? God is all consuming. When you get into that, you can't survive.
When you contravene the law, you're done. You contravene God's law,
Done.
you disappear. you're consumed. Keep going.
See something different.
Moshe is having an understanding that's breaking from that. God is not consuming to the end. There's something that, let's call it, that's the same message that comes up at Harenina Kivodecha, which is there's a short-term thing that goes on, but there's a future, and the thing does not get consumed. God is going to see it through in the future. This is a whole different
So
understanding.
his first experience is one that says, it's
Not
not the
gonna get
end.
Not gonna get it.
It's not the
Something
end.
that Eliyahu gets, he wants it now, and we say, no, not now.
Now, why does he tell you the story about Eliyahu? Because the Torah is telling you, and it's going to talk to you about Eob, and it's going to talk to you here in 25. It's going to call it Sod Adonai Le'Re'av, or B'ritol Hodi'am, right? Because this is not easy. And after you get the answer, if you think you walk away going like this,
Uh-huh.
la la la, I got the answer from God. Oh, you're making a big mistake.
Now what?
The answer to Job is, where were you when I created the world? This has been going. You're in year 15 billion right now, right? How you told me once 14, 15 billion years. 13.8 billion years ago. Where were you 13.8 billion years ago? And now you're here for a split second, and you don't like, right? It's a different time frame than what you have in mind. And now go fight evil. That doesn't mean that Eob did not go fight. He did. Maybe he did. And he went and he took action, right? Because he was being passive. And you can't be passive, and you have to do something about it. And I'll help you, God says. But you have to be courageous, like a fire-breathing dragon and like a dinosaur, mythical fire-breathing dragon, right? That's what he describes, man, with the fire and everything, exactly like a dragon, fire-breathing. You have to live your life like that, with that kind of courage, and Ezor Motnecha, gird your loins and get ready, which is what he tells you to me at the opening of his prophecy. Gird your loins, you're getting into a war now, and they're going to come after you. By the way, why is his name Eob? Oyeb. He becomes the enemy, right?
So-
But Sassoon says he's the Oyeb. They make him the enemy. They want to kill him.
So the
Right.
right thing is like a hard because he needed a respite from everything that's going on around him. So the Baal situation,
Mhm.
Eliyahu,
Mhm.
was a kol hora'acha. It was a momentary thing just to give him a little respite so he can catch his breath.
Yeah, but God tells him, I'm not
Yeah,
interested.
it's not a long term thing. It's a short term momentary.
And it doesn't work. He's telling him that's not going to work.
It's being practical. He wanted to save his life.
Right, so for the moment,
And
he's
the
allowed,
people. No, he's losing the people. The people are gone.
so for the moment he's allowed to perform a magic trick in order to.
God didn't tell him that.
No, but he decided.
He decided.
Right.
He decided that.
I can catch my breath.
And God says, I'm not in. I'm not in. And that's not how I work.
But you did it. I'm not going to beat you up for it.
No, he tells him go. On the contrary, he's going to be the mentor of Elisha. Isha Elohim. He's going to be his mentor. He's going to be the one who teaches him everything he knows.
That's not my way.
He teaches Elisha everything he knows. Elisha, nothing he does is with miracles. Everything is with his wits. That's what I write about. You'll see soon. In volume 2. It's always his wits.
That's twice as much as what Eliyahu does.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk. We're going very, very fast. Everything you have a lot of questions. We're going to talk about the Pishayim, but I want you to hear. Because I know this is going on the internet, right?
You didn't realize
that. I'm not saying that we're. I want to say, right. I like to believe that all those things that we call miracles are in fact miraculous, but they're not the kind of miracles that people like to think about magic.
Not on the spot.
They're not magic. Of course it's miraculous. And of course when the Navi refers to it, it's miraculous. Of course the Devorah story about Nahal Kishon, it's miraculous. It started a flash flood in the middle of the summertime. How could you have a flash flood? There's no such thing in Israel as a flash flood. The guy's coming with the equivalent of atomic weaponry in that time, 900
Charity.
chariots, deadly. What you're gonna expect a flash flood? So the flash flood comes. It's amazing. What do you mean it started raining? You can't believe it. So the story goes down, and history is going. Can you imagine God? God did that. God did that. Well, God did do that. The answer is, can you imagine if the Navi rewrote in 50 years from now, let's say, whenever, that the Germans, they said they're going to kill all the Jews. Now, when they did that, they could have had the Jews who invented the atomic bomb, but they want to kill all the Jews. So Oppenheimer, what's it, Einstein, they all have to leave. So where did it end up? They go to America. They do it for America. America gets it. If they got it, would have been the end of the world. Today you'd be under German, under
Miracle.
miracle. Well, isn't it a miracle? It is a miracle. If you don't call it a miracle, you're a fool, right? If the Navi is here to say you don't call it, what do you foolish? It's a miracle like the magic of the thing. It is that miracle. But God does not work with magic. You're not going to see my actions. So therefore, I'm stating that whatever it was that went on with Eliyahu, you use that word. I don't want to use that word. I'm very reluctant to use that word. Whatever it was, it clearly, whatever it was, God saying from the description of the wind and the sound and the fire, it's like he's talking about the incident that just happened. He ends off on fire. You know, after the fire, you know what? I'm not there. The only thing, there was something there. Barely perceptible. Yeah, that's imperceptible. Not with the grandeur of what you wanted, and therefore not on your time frame. And I think, do you think it's a safe bet that we're right?
Yeah.
Okay, so therefore, this is the reason, coming back to the beginning of our session here, this is the reason in volume 2, I'm going to bring down all the list of the crossovers, right? The swath that crosses with this, because this is a critical thing throughout all. This is, why is it at the middle of Tehillim? You can't get more critical than this. This is, you can't get more critical than the big question. You can't get more critical than the theodicy. You can't get, it's a critical time. It's a critical time for the nation. It's a critical time when the nation gets, when you lose Israel. You're in Galut. You're in Galut for thousands of years, right? It's going to, or for 70 years, then it's going to be for thousands, right? It's going to be devastating. So you can't talk, you're talking about a very important subject from many angles. So the Tehillim center point is going to bring this up in spades. The Ani Hashem is going to, of course, be the answer. I'm Yud Kei Vav Kei, and God is eternal, and so on and so forth. 25 is going to say there's no hope. Well, what happens when you're in a hopeless situation, right? The covenant is in effect. There's 70 words around one thing, there's 130 words around another thing, there's 26 words in between the covenant, and so on and so forth. There's 8 times Hashem's name in between. Oh, Lee.
You keep repeating about the 3 generations and then the 4th one.
Uh-huh.
So the way the Hashems appear is Pesukim 6, 7, 8, 9. You have Hashem in the first pasuk, the second pasuk, the third pasuk, not in the 4th. Then the next 4 Pesukim, 10, 11, 12, 13. Hashem appears in the first one, the second one, the third one, not in the 4th one. And then in the last 4th section, 14, 15, 16, 17, you have Hashem, and then 16 and 17 both end with the word Ani. Ani, Ani, and then Hotzi, Ani.
Right. Let's see, Annie.
Right, but it's Ani.
Yeah.
Saying that as you get
This guy's dangerous.
as you go on through history, maybe you get closer and closer to figuring out about Hashem.
I don't have time now tonight to tell you about how this Mizmor is all working with 4 and 9 and this idea. It's in the volume. The word Mimesukotai is, if you'll notice, it has a mem, right? Look at me, as you see it, there's a mem. 40. Mimesukotai is mem, then a sadi is 90, 40, 90, the 6, and so on and so forth. the fourth and the ninth in here, the fourth letter is missing from in 9 and 10. It's the fourth letter that's missing. In 9 and 10, there are 90 words, right? When you know the other acrostic, everything is context. There are 90 words where evil is persisting. It's split up into sections of 30, 90, 30, 3, 9, 3, 9. So what you're seeing may in fact be a continuation of that. If we have time, but it takes an entire class to show it to you, how 9 and 10 works with this and how this theme will be the acrostics and the missing letters will all work within this theme. Now, don't be surprised that it all works within this theme. Don't be surprised, say, but how pervasive is it? Well, it's very pervasive. The theodicy comes up all the time, everywhere. It's constantly, it's your whole life, right? How can you not? Sadiq v'ra'lo, Rashat v'tovlo, Hashofet kol ha'aretz lo ya'aseh mishpat, Abraham. Mati ten li v'anochi arani, and I'm going to be inherited by, right? The Berit Betanim, or Abraham in Sidon, or Moshe, or again, and again. This question is going to come up, right? All the time, the question of this is it's going to permeate and be discussed from different angles and different aspects and different dimensions. So at the center of Tehillim, you're going to talk about the most important aspects of it. I told you not to do it. You did it anyway. There's ramifications. Eliyahu, again, doesn't like the answer. No, we've got to act. Now, if you tell me that you don't feel for Eliyahu, you're lying.
Right, I was going to say that.
That he has to be act. He has to act. So you're telling one guy he has to act, and then you're telling the other guy, no, you're acting, but
He tells
you're
Moshe.
doing it.
Moshe too, he tells Moshe to act. Moshe doesn't want.
Moshe tells me, he says, I'm not the guy. You got the wrong guy. I don't want to do that. Right.
And then when he comes back, he says,
What'd you do?
No. And worse, that's what we say. 75 is the follow-up on 74. That's the track. Tehillim is tracking that story. But what did you say just now? I wanted to tell you. He wants Moshe to do what Moshe is. So he gets a concession. He tells him,
My brother,
he don't want that. He does not want the religious establishment.
God gets angry.
He gets angry.
God
God doesn't want it. He says, okay.
He
He
gets
doesn't-
angry.
He is angry. I don't want the religious establishment to have anything to do with
That's
this.
the only thing that people understand. So he has to be a part of it.
He doesn't want it.
No,
God says, I'm-
He's the guy.
and 1 second, God said, I don't go for it. God says it would have
I
been,
agree with him.
no, God says it would have been better,
Without it.
clearly, because he gets angry.
I
He
think
didn't
that-
want it. He didn't want to have any of the religious establishment involved with what Moshe Rabbeinu was
God has
doing.
to alter. He said, I'm going to put my words in your mouth. Then he changes it after that. He says, I'm going to put my words in both of you. It was a change because
A concession because
Yeah.
Moshe insisted.
When you push that, he's the one who does it.
of course,
Well, what? Of course. What do you mean? It says it explicitly. 1 second.
that on fails multiple.
And Devarim, Moshe tells, if not for my intervention, God was going to kill you. God, it was because of Devarim. It said explicitly, right? If not,
It's more than that. Also, the Birkat Kohanim does not work without Moshe.
right.
The Birkat Kohanim does not work without Moshe.
And the and Birkat Kohanim, we show that Birkat Kohanim is a revolution. Not the way you've been doing it. This is the way you do it, and then we show that you never learned it. That's great. Yeah. So look. We covered a lot about 25 that I wanted to show you. We talked about Eov. We talked about the key ones. Did we leave any of the key? The Moshe Rabbeinu?
You left out a lot of stuff.
We left out a lot of stuff. I know. Maybe before we're about to turn to 76, but perhaps in the next class, we'll still look at some of the other, like at Sodom, as an example with Abraham, or like in the Brit Be'atim, and see how these are representing this idea explicitly. Those are explicit representations of this conversation and the take hold. But I just want quickly, before we stop, I want to say this. This idea that you don't walk away happy, I want just a slight elaboration. I'll leave it maybe to Joey. Joey, why is it that it's impossible for you to walk away with, this now, right? The sword the sword of God is to those who fear him, and his biddy to be made known to them. But what? What happens that after you know it, you're still, so to speak,
Still living in hell,
Because
but
there's no answer.
so.
And-
Where's the justice to that
Yes,
person?
no
You're
answer.
still struggling with that justice.
and you can't get out of that box. You agree to this?
They can have what box?
Yeah, we said
You're
it.
still in a miserable state. even
You're
though
in injustice.
Yeah.
You're in injustice. Hearing this and injustice going full force, you can't say, "Oh, everything is okay. I got it." No.
100 years from now, be okay.
Right, no
Yeah.
one- Well, look at today's time. I mean, look at what's going on today. All the injustice going on now. So what do you?
So wait. So what do you have to be to ride through it?
Wake up
What do you have to be?
What do you have to be to ride through
right
it?
away.
Patient.
When is it gonna be?
Sword on an eye they have to those who fear him. You have to be God-fearing. You have to. Of course, in that sense, that's what the av means. The av means that. Doesn't mean scared. It doesn't never mean scared.
Also, the
No, no.
information is only gonna get worse before it gets better.
What?
Part of the problem also, right now, is it's only gonna get worse before it gets better.
Right.
It's gonna get worse than the
And
same thing.
Sorry, but you know what God's telling you also? Get out there and do something.
Well, don't
So, and it's always
Betty,
going to be a
Keep
theory,
the bed eat.
and everyone's going through it, always.
That's my problem, man.
But the answer was that. You know,
So therefore, as long as you're a human being and alive on earth, the Torah is talking about this subject because there's a recognition that it's a constant, ongoing, internal battle in every single human being all the time. And that's why it's so important to say, "Vayitrotzetzu habanim b'kirbah." That's why it's so important to say that the children were fighting inside of her. And she said, "I can't take this anymore." And one of them says, "I'm going to die. Who cares? You take it." The other one is future oriented. But if it's in the same individual, because they're twins, if it's one unit, then there's part of you that says, "What the heck? Who cares about all of this?" And the other part of you says, "No,
Have to care.
I have to care.
And the
It's
future-
long term." And that's what
and the
counts.
future-oriented guy goes through hell.
That's
Rough time.
Exactly, that's religious.
How about you don't see any Navi in Tanakh that seems to be
Happy go-
doing well.
Yeshayahu, he did okay.
Shemuel?
Let me see,
Shmuel was okay.
Shmuel struggled to people.
Yeah, he built himself.
These are different.
Except he had to make a king.
I look at them, I look at the stories about the prophets as different aspects of the prophetic challenge. When I look at Yirmiyah's challenge is the one where he's witnessing the destruction head on. He's writing Icha, and therefore, sure, he says in Yov that when we know that Yoshiyahu, even though he never says it explicitly, he had a good life all that time because Yoshiyahu was unbelievable king, and he had how many years? 18 years, and he was able to thrive, and he wasn't afraid.
He accomplished.
He got up,
things.
yeah. He wasn't afraid to get up in the morning. He was sleeping at night comfortably. Couldn't get married because God told him you can't get married here because there's a Holocaust coming. Yirmiyahu.
Yeah.
Yirmiyahu was told, you cannot get married in this place because Holocaust is coming. You don't want to bring children into a Holocaust. You don't want to, right? Which was such a hard thing for him to live with. He wanted to get married. He was, it's a good life. And so there was a time when there was, and he was hopeful and very optimistic because Yoshiahu was the king and he's doing all positive things. So there are good aspects and good times, and there's difficult times. Look, anytime you're going to fight evil, it's going to be very hard. You got to be courageous, and you got to the people put their life on the line for it. So it's not easy, but this is it, and that's why the Esav story is important, because remember, Esav ends up, they're cheering on the day of destruction. That approach, because he represents that approach, whereas the other one survives, and the other one did thrive, and Israel did thrive, and Israel did make it. And there were times over the last 2,000 years when Jews had good lives in the Galut. There were times where they were very successful, and in Europe there were times that they were in certain countries. In Spain, there were times of great.
We look today.
Yeah.
Right, right,
So can we at least summarize and agree that what we're trying to say is
yes,
we have responsibilities to take action, to fight evil, but at no point feel entitled to see the results that you want to see.
That's
Because
right.
who are you? Do
Or
what
when
you're
you want
supposed to
to.
do, or when you do what you're supposed to do to contribute to the cause, fight the evil, but at no point should you think that you're gonna solve it all. And
right.
if it's not the case, accept it, that it's not the case.
Accept it. That's very good word. Accept that reality.
My boy.
Very well
But it
said.
could.
Very well said. All right. Take it easy, folks. This is to be continued, of course. Of course.
Perfect.
Get rid of that.